Imagine this. Your brand becomes so incredibly successful, so widely recognized, that it actually becomes a victim of its own popularity. So much so that you risk losing its legal identity entirely. Sounds like a strange paradox, doesn't it? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the fascinating world of trademark genericization, or sometimes it's called genericide. It's a concept that's probably more familiar to you than you think. We've pulled together some truly insightful sources to unpack this unique challenge. Our mission, as always, is to uncover how even beloved brands can lose their legal protections and, crucially, what companies are doing to fight back. Okay, let's unravel some truly unexpected stories.
Yeah, it's a really compelling topic. It highlights this delicate balance, between market dominance and just keeping your brand distinct. What's truly fascinating here is how something as simple as, like, everyday public use can slowly, subtly erode legal protections. Protections that seem so fundamental. It raises a critical question. When does a brand name stop being a brand, like a unique identifier, and just become the word for the product itself? We'll be looking at how this process actually unfolds and, yeah, the significant implications. They could be pretty surprising.
Okay, so to start, let's get a clear handle on what genericization actually means. Because, like I said, you might be using these terms every day without even thinking about it. Our sources define it as the process where a brand name becomes so common
So common, right?
that it stops identifying a specific source for goods or services. Instead, it just becomes the everyday name for the whole category of product.
Exactly. It's like the brand name makes that leap, from being a proper noun like Kleenex to just a common noun like tissue.
And legally, that's a huge problem.
Oh, absolutely. Under trademark law, a trademark's main job, its core function, is to be distinctive. It has to signify origin. Think of it like a unique fingerprint, yeah, instantly telling you where a product comes from. If a mark becomes generic, well, it loses that essential distinctiveness. It just can't do its job anymore, identifying who made the product. And the result? It risks being canceled or denied renewal by trademark authorities, which means the original company loses its exclusive rights to that name.
Wow, so anyone can use it then.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The door swings wide open for competitors. It's a massive loss of intellectual property and market value, too.
That idea of distinctiveness really is key then. But how does a brand actually start to lose it? Is it like a sudden thing or slower? Something companies might miss.
It's almost never sudden. Genericization usually unfolds gradually over time, and it's driven by that widespread public usage we talked about. Often, it starts when a company invents something totally new, a revolutionary product, maybe a new technology. They dominate the market.
Because they're the only game in town, initially.
Exactly. And if there's no other easy name for this new thing, consumers just naturally start using the brand name for the product itself. In their minds, the brand is the product. That brand name fills a sort of linguistic gap.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there specific things that speed it up? Warning signs, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. If we look at the bigger picture, a few key factors accelerate it. First, like I mentioned, just the absence of any other easy, commonly accepted word for the new product. If the company's name is the only one out there, and maybe it's catchy, it just becomes the default. Second, you see it everywhere. The media uses it generically, the public does. Sometimes even competitors start treating it like a common noun.
And the original company, what's their role in this?
That's critical.
Mhm.
A huge factor is the trademark holder failing to properly police their mark, protect how it's used. If they don't consistently push back against generic use, it reinforces the idea that it is just a common word. Once that trademark becomes a standard way to describe a whole category, its legal protection is in serious trouble. It's not doing its job anymore.
It sounds like a slow-motion identity crisis for the brand.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about some famous examples from our sources, brands that actually lost their names. Prepare for some aha moments, because you probably use these words all the time. Where should we start?
Let's start with aspirin, probably the most famous example. Originally, it was a trademark of Bayer for salicylic acid, right? But during and after World War I, the trademark just fell into generic use in many countries. Especially the U.S. Bayer actually lost the mark there as part of war reparations.
Wow, so it wasn't just about people using the name. Politics played a part.
A huge part. It's fascinating because its fate shows how external pressures, like geopolitical events, can combine with public usage. It really underscores how even strong legal protections aren't invincible. Public usage almost became weaponized against the brand in that context. Today, aspirin is just the common term for the drug in many places. But what a history behind that name.
Incredible. So circumstances really matter. Does that mean some brands are just more vulnerable from the start?
Potentially, yes. Think about it. If a product becomes, say, a wartime necessity,
Hmm.
its name can get embedded in the language much faster. Okay, next up, Thermos. Started as a brand name for those vacuum-insulated bottles, but it just became so common people called all insulated flasks thermoses. Didn't matter who made them.
Yeah, I do that. I just call it a thermos.
Right. And eventually, U.S. courts ruled the term generic. That loss of specific identity means any company now can make and sell a thermos. The original brand lost that edge.
It really makes you stop and think about the words we use. What about Escalator? That was a brand name.
It was originally a trademark owned by the Otis Elevator Company for their specific type of moving staircase. But by 1950, the U.S. Patent Office said, nope, it's become the general term for all mechanical stairways. It's a perfect illustration of how the name of a groundbreaking invention can just become synonymous with the entire category. People grab the first name they hear, and it sticks.
And then there's Cellophane. DuPont had the trademark for that clear wrapping stuff.
Yep, but same story, really. Widespread use led courts in the U.S. to rule it generic. What's interesting with cellophane, though, is that in other countries, it actually remained a valid trademark for longer.
Oh, really? So it's not always a global thing.
Exactly. That difference across borders is quite telling. It shows trademark protection can be culturally and legally nuanced. It evolves differently based on local use and local laws. Genericization isn't always uniform, which adds another layer of complexity for international brands.
Definitely complicates things. Okay, one more. Zipper.
Ah, zipper. Such a catchy word. Initially, that was a trademark of B.F. Goodrich for a specific type of fastener they used in boots. But the public just latched onto it so quickly as the general term for that kind of fastener. The mark was lost. Imagine the brand power they could have held onto.
These stories really hit home how precarious even huge brands can be, how public language can just sort of override legal intentions.
It really does. Each one underscores just how vital that ongoing distinctiveness is. Once that link between the name and the specific source is broken in the public's mind, well, getting it back is almost impossible. The legal fight is often already lost. Public language is powerful stuff.
Okay, so given these cautionary tales, it's not all doom and gloom, right? There must be things companies can do now to stop their success turning against them. How are brands fighting back?
Oh, absolutely not all doom and gloom. There's a lot companies can do, and many are actively fighting this. Losing a trademark means losing exclusive rights, losing enormous market value. So yeah, it's a battle worth waging, and some of the strategies are pretty clever.
Let's talk about a modern giant then. Google. Probably the most cited example today of a mark at risk. People say Google it all the time just to mean search online. How's Google handling that?
Google is very active. They defend the trademark vigorously, through legal efforts for sure,
Yeah.
but also through really clear brand guidelines. And their marketing campaigns constantly emphasize that Google is a brand specifically, a brand of search engine, not just a generic verb or activity. They understand that constant public education is probably their best defense.
That continuous education seems key. What about Kleenex? I mean, I think almost everyone uses Kleenex for any tissue.
Right, it's a classic case. Kleenex is a registered trademark of Kimberly-Clark, and the company is relentless in reminding consumers. Kleenex is a brand of tissue. It's not a synonym for tissues generally. You'll often see it in their ads or on the box, Kleenex brand tissues. It's that subtle, constant reinforcement, trying to maintain the distinction in the consumer's mind.
And Xerox had a very similar problem, didn't they? With Xeroxing meaning photocopying.
Exactly the same issue. Xerox faced a really serious risk there. Back in the 70s and 80s, they launched these huge advertising campaigns. They explicitly asked consumers, pleaded almost, please photocopy documents, don't Xerox them.
Yeah.
They saw the danger and invested heavily to try and correct how people were talking, a very direct approach to redirecting public language.
But maybe the most memorable fight was Velcro. They had that really funny campaign.
Oh yeah, the Don't See Velcro campaign from 2017, that was brilliant. Velcro Companies, the owner of the Velcro trademark, they made this catchy music video. Actors dressed as lawyers, literally pleading with people to say hook and loop instead of Velcro for similar fasteners.
That seemed like such a different approach. Why was it so effective, do you think, compared to just legal warnings?
Well, it was a masterclass, really. It used humor, self-aware humor, to tackle a very serious legal goal. It engaged people in a way that, a dry legal notice just never could. It educated consumers, reinforced the brand identity, but did it in a way that was fun, memorable, shareable. It showed real innovation in what's usually a pretty stuffy area, brand protection can actually be entertaining and effective.
So if you're a company listening, wanting to keep your brand name distinctive, what are the big takeaways here? What lessons can we learn from these fights?
Okay, so to maintain that distinctiveness, that value, long term, companies need to be incredibly vigilant and strategic. First, and maybe most importantly, always use the trademark as an adjective, not a noun. Think Band-Aid bandages, like you said earlier, not just a Band-Aid. That little linguistic shift, it constantly reinforces that it's a specific brand of something, not the thing itself.
So making that distinction crystal clear every time in everything you put out.
Every single time. Yeah, exactly. Second, provide really clear brand usage guidelines for the media, distributors, ad agencies, everyone. Proactively set the expectations on how the mark should and shouldn't be used. That heads off misuse before it starts.
Okay, so controlling your own usage and guiding others. What else?
Third, you have to correct improper usage. Whenever you see it in publications, ads, even on packaging, you have to show you're consistently vigilant. It signals to everyone, public and competitors, that you're serious about protecting your mark.
So it's not just what you say, it's policing what others are allowed to say about your brand, too.
Precisely. And finally, well, sometimes you have to be prepared to take legal action against competitors who misuse the trademark. It's not just about winning one case. It's about demonstrating that serious commitment to protecting your intellectual property, setting a precedent. All these steps together, they form a strategy. But it's constant effort. It never really stops.
Wow. What an eye-opening deep dive this has been. We've seen how the very success that builds a brand can, paradoxically, lead to its potential downfall if it's not managed carefully. From Aspirin's really unique story tied up with world events to Google's ongoing struggle with everyday language, it's just so clear that distinctiveness is this precious thing. Hard to win, easy to lose. So what does this all mean for you, our listener?
Well, I think it means the words we use, even just casually, they carry real weight. They can actually reshape commerce and intellectual property law over time. It also maybe encourages us to think a bit more critically about how we talk about products day to day, to recognize that for every big brand name, there's often this delicate balance, this constant fight for identity.
Absolutely. So the next time you Google something or grab a Kleenex or even zip up a zipper, maybe take just a second to consider the fascinating, sometimes risky journey behind those names. It's a great reminder that even the most common words often have a really surprising story, and usually a company fighting hard to keep its name its own. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the peril of popularity. We hope you walk away with a richer understanding of the brands that shape our world.